Molasses sugar cookie time. Big fan of molasses sugar cookies. These are my favorite seasonal cookies, 100%. So I've already got my butter softened and I've got half my sugar in here. If you want to be fancy, you keep half a cup of the sugar out, and when you do your balls for your cookie, you roll them in the sugar and then they have that pretty sparkly thing. I'm lazy and I don't like things that are fussy and I have to roll them in things. So if you want to make it pretty, have at her. I'm gonna just put the sugar right in and mix it. Highly recommend a hand mixer for this process because creaming butter and sugar is, it's not as fun to do by hand. You can absolutely, but less fun. Drop my egg in there. Ginger, I go easy on the ginger. Not a huge fan of it. Keep that to a 1/4 teaspoon. That's all I can handle. Cloves, I don't love it either in strong quantities. I love small amounts of cloves, but cautious. Cinnamon, on the other hand, I want a full teaspoon, 100%. Yeah, and no, I don't measure things very much. This is how I usually measure stuff. Yep, that's a half a teaspoon. That's all creamed and smooth, and now we have a pain in the ass phase, which is the molasses. So, I don't know if anybody else's parents like to use the phrase that you're slow as molasses in the wintertime, which was my mom to me every time I was getting ready to go anywhere. She was not wrong. She's not wrong. Molasses is the most ridiculous. It's a good thing it's delicious, because I need about a 1/4 cup. And yes, I'm fully just eyeballing this because you know what is not worth it? Squeezing this crap out into a measuring cup and then trying to scrape it out of a measuring cup for 5 minutes. Did I mention that I don't like to waste time? For this recipe, I pretty much always use a whole grain flour because the molasses is already a strong flavor. Whatever flour you put in is going to kind of disappear. So as long as it's not a strong texture, right? So I'm going to use spelt. I use spelt because it's one of my favorites and I like the slightly nutty flavor it gives, but whole wheat is also just dandy, and you will probably not be able to tell the difference if you had used white flour or whole wheat. So might as well get a little bonus fiber. This dough gets really thick really fast. So if you have dough hooks, these little babies here, you may want to switch to those once you get to the flour addition phase of your cookies. So that's what my dough looks like now. It's a nice golden brown color, and it's delicious. One fussy thing about this recipe is the dough does have to be cold when you bake it, otherwise it will just go out in a pancake. And I mean, molasses sugar cookie pancake, not terrible, but it is definitely not going to be cookie shaped, and it won't stay the same thickness, so you won't get quite as chewy delicious as you want. So at least 20 minutes in the refrigerator. Cannot skip that step. Making the cookies, I like to use 2 teaspoons and then a fork afterwards to press them down so you get the nice little grease on top. So about a teaspoon. If you actually have a cookie scoop, have at her. I do not own such a beast. So I'm just gonna portion it out and then make them into little balls afterwards. If you notice your dough getting soft while you're putting them on the pan, which frequently happens because I take too long, just pop back in the fridge. I explicitly, for these cookies, I don't preheat the oven while I'm putting them on the pan. I'll put them on the pan, pop them in the fridge, and then preheat the oven while they're chilling to make sure that they don't spread too much, because I really like them in their perfect little circles of happiness. Really, really lightly. The harder you press, the warmer they get, and the more ends up on your hands. Which, I mean, you can always lick off your hands afterwards, but it's not elegant. It's not elegant. And then the fork, quick little, and that's it. They'll spread from there, and they'll have the nice little marks on top. You can see what I did. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Fill your pans. My favorite cooling rack hack is I just take the rack out of my toaster oven. Because why have 2 things that serve the same purpose? Result. Perfect. Glorious. Chewy. Molasses cookie.